All right, let's talk notable fantasy playoff schedules, gentlemen. Weeks 15 through 17. Start with quarterbacks. Matthew, start with you. Dak Prescott, who goes week 15 at Jacksonville. Week 16, home to Philadelphia, then at Tennessee. Do you think this Cowboys offense is about to take off?
I do. I mean, so you mentioned Jacksonville, 8th most fantasy points game to opposing quarterbacks. Tennessee, 6th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks as well. He's had 2 or more passing touchdowns now in 4 straight games. And so the only defense in there that scares you is Philadelphia, but that's a home game in Dallas. And
Green Bay just lit them up as well.
Exactly. I do think we've seen some some cracks in the wall that is the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Yep. Dak is getting more healthy as well. Remember the last time they played him, Cooper Rush was under center. Eagles haven't played the Cowboys with Dak at full strength, with their offense at full strength here. So I do think this Cowboys offense, and specifically Dak Prescott and the guys he likes to target, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, maybe a little bit more Tony Pollard, a little bit more Michael Gallup here. I do think the passing offense specifically of the Cowboys about to take off. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, and you look at the Week 15 matchup with Jacksonville, you could see that being a back-and-forth game because their offense is playing better. And then if you get to the Week 17 matchup, the only way you're going to beat the Titans is by passing. That's something that the Bengals and Chiefs know very well. You're not going to run against them. So we do like this Dallas offense as a whole. We like all the players in it. I even like Zeke in it too. You know what I'm saying?
He's getting enough volume. They're in scoring position often enough. By the way, I don't know Dak Prescott at all. I've met him once in my life, briefly for like 20 seconds. So I can't say I know the man at all. But I would think that if I were Dak Prescott, and I would sit there and be like, man, everything I've done in my career, and now everyone wants to talk about Jalen Hurts as the best quarterback in the NFC East.
Right.
Matthew Berry named him his ride or die, not me, Dak Prescott. Why was I not Matthew Berry's ride or die? I wasn't even Jay Croucher's ride or die. I wasn't even Jay Croucher's ride or die. He chose Lamar Jackson, who hasn't been as good as me. Again, this is in Dak's mind.
I was vocalized the inner thoughts of
anyway,
Mr. Prescott.
that Eagles Cowboys game 2 weeks from now, pretty interesting.
I'm going to say the Cowboys win that game. I think the line will be -2 about that. Cowboys favored. I think they are going to run over the Eagles. I think they're the better team. We will see.
That'll be interesting to see. Maybe place a bet right now.
Yeah,
there's probably a future line on it, right?
Yeah. We can have a look. But let's jump to Tom Brady, who has definitely been underwhelming this year, Lawrence. But his fantasy schedule, the first 2 games in the playoffs, home to Cincinnati, at Arizona. That Cincinnati defense is decimated in the secondary. And then week 17, Carolina, who we did not have a good game against a few weeks ago. What do you think of Tom Brady if he's your QB1 going into the playoffs?
Yeah, so if, that Cincinnati game, right, that I don't know that I would actually start him that game just because the offense in the passing game isn't humming with Mike Evans, as they mentioned before. If you had a better option for that week, I would explore that. If you could get to that Arizona matchup, well, then let it rip. Then throw him right in there. You in the semifinals of your fantasy leagues by then. He looked awful against the Panthers the first go round, but the Bucs will likely be playing for a playoff spot or a division spot if the Falcons keep if the Bucs and the Falcons keep losing at the same pace. So they'll need that game too. So it's a nice okay schedule. I would pick and choose the spots.
Yeah, hard to just sort of blanket. Keep starting him after the season he's had. But I do think, there's a lot of positive signs, right?
Yes.
Which is that, Godwin back healthy, Evans there. We've even got some Julio sightings out there as well. The volume in terms of the passing has always been there for Tom Brady. The touchdowns are finally starting to come around here. To your point about Arizona, 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And, oh, by the way, they're on a bye this week. So Arizona's going to have 2 weeks to prepare for Tom Brady, 2 weeks to get Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins, and hopefully Rondale Moore is healthy as well by that game. And so finally a full complement of weapons for Kyler Murray, so that game could have a lot of explosiveness. Cincinnati doesn't actually scare me all that much. They're a bottom 12 pass defense over the last month. And so I do think Tom Brady isn't matchup driven. You know what I mean? Again, the volume has consistently been there. It's just whether you buy it or not. That's the fantasy playoff schedule, I should say. I'm off on that, but they're not playing Cincinnati this week. They're obviously playing New Orleans. And so the Arizona matchup, they will have already been out of their bye, whatever. The fact remains the same, though, is that there are shootout potential, given the Buccaneers defense has been inconsistent somewhat this year. They're playing better recently. But against Joe Burrow, against Kyler Murray, against Sam Darnold, the fact is there's a chance, at least for the first two of those games, there's a chance that there's a bit of a shootout, and Brady's got to throw to keep up with the guy on the other side.
Yep. All right, let's pivot to Tua Tagovailoa. And before we get into his difficult fantasy schedule, he's still having a good time on the sidelines with his coach, Mike McDaniel.
Yes.
Yeah, Georgia is definitely the best SEC school, without a shadow of a doubt. God, I'm so glad Tua can't hear me.
You heard him. You heard him, guys. I got swag. Dude, that's you.
Do you hear what Tua just said? Anybody? It's a dangerous indicator that you don't have swag. He just told me, you heard those guys, they think I have swag. That's how you know you don't.
That was Mike McDaniel just trolling Tua on the side.
Yeah, that's right.
Mike McDaniel, probably the funniest coach that we've had.
I mean, there's no question.
The clock, nice thing that went kind of viral on Twitter, that was perfect as well.
I mean, listen, Belichick's obviously hilarious, but other than him,
yeah, it's a 1-2 punch.
Other than him, McDaniel is sort of
DiCaprio
that guy.
Damon in the party.
McDaniel's awesome. How do you not root for that
He's
guy?
a cool
How do you
little
not?
guy.
We love it.
He's a cool little guy.
He's
He is. He's great. And by the way, I agree. Like, I was going to talk about how much swag I have, but you know what? I'm not going to mention it. I'm just going to.
Because if you got to say it, then
you don't got it.
Just
let it
got it.
Let the swag sit.
Exactly.
Guy's been playing with a lot of swag this year is Tua Tagovailoa, who has been outstanding. He's the third favorite for MVP, which was very long coming into the season. He does have a very difficult fantasy playoff schedule, though, Matthew, and now he's got this Teron Armstead injury to navigate.
That's a concern. The playoff schedule is at Buffalo, home to Green Bay, at to New England. So 2 cold weather games against divisional opponents and 2 good defenses. And so he's been so good that it's hard to sort of ignore that. And but you do worry a little bit there about Tagovailoa on the road at those 2 matchups, home to Green Bay, and between those 2 should be better. And I think at that point maybe he'll be facing off against Jordan Love. We'll see how that all plays out here. But I do think the production for Tagovailoa will drop somewhat in the playoffs. So if you've been riding him and that Dolphins offense to get into the playoffs, just something to keep an eye on, and depending on what other options you have.
There will be people out there who drafted Tua as their second quarterback and who have Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, whoever as their QB1, and they might be more playable in certain matchups than Tua, Lawrence. I know Tua's your guy.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people. I actually drafted Tua in certain leagues where I didn't have Hurts and Jackson. I just drafted Tua to be my guy. So now, and I see these difficult matchups now, I'm not going into these I wouldn't go into these games thinking, three touchdowns, 300 yards. It's not going to happen. Like you say, the Bills and the Patriots are both in there. That's who he had his 2 lowest scoring outputs against when he played the full game. So he's not going to crumble, but you just can't expect him to light it up like he in Miami.
Yep.
Under 15 fantasy points in each of those 2 games.
Yeah.
The last 2 healthy games he played against the Bills and the Patriots, under 15 fantasy points in both of them.
Yep. Let's see how he goes against that Niners defensive line without Teron Armstead as well. I'll be a little bit concerned about that.
That'll be a learning moment for all of us.
Yes, indeed it will, Matthew. Very well said. All right, let's get to running backs, and a guy with an easy schedule, which he's going to need because he's not being good, is Alvin Kamara, Matthew. His schedule goes home to Atlanta, at Cleveland, at Philadelphia, so about as good as it gets. Any light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to get Jordan Davis back by this time, right? I just saw earlier today that they've started the window to activate him, the 21-day window. So you expect Davis to be back for the Eagles. So that'll certainly help their run defense, and maybe, Sue and Joseph also get them some more quality snaps here. But, yeah, I'm standing by because my expectation here is that the usage should be enough. He's not going to be the number 1 running back that he was drafted as, that candidly I ranked him as other people did as well. But the shocking thing is the reason Alvin Kamara was falling in drafts was people were worried he was going to be suspended.
Right.
No one had a question about the talent or the usage, especially with what we expected to be Jameis Winston under center. The numbers with him under center last year were great. The problem is that with Andy Dalton, the red pop gun, as I like to call him.
Yeah, that's
right,
what he look
honestly,
like.
right? You can't call him a rifle.
No.
Maybe by the playoffs we'll have back Jameis
water
Winston.
gun.
Bring back Jameis. Like, we're begging for Jameis. Team Jameis here.
Yeah.
Can we take the money we raised to get Deontay Johnson a touchdown and just transfer it over to the Saints to get Jameis Winston back under center, free Alvin Kamara? Like, you see it there on your screen. You saw it there on your screen, just the lack of overall usage for a running back as talented as Kamara, and obviously the lack of fantasy production. But yes, better days are ahead for Alvin Kamara. I know it has been tough, and there's a chance you haven't made the playoffs because of Alvin Kamara, but if you manage to sneak in, better days are ahead. Falcons, Browns, Eagles.
Yep. Lawrence, let's jump to Isaiah Pacheco. Chiefs play at Houston Week 15 versus the Seattle team that did not look good at all against the Raiders, and then against Denver, whose defense is tailing off a little bit. Now, Melvin Gordon complicates things, but how are you feeling about Isaiah Pacheco?
Melvin Gordon does complicate things, and if you take away Melvin Gordon's fumbles, it'd be like, hey, Chiefs got their best running back right now, and that's not even a question. But Isaiah Pacheco is taking advantage of these opportunities, and he's not just it's not just massive volume that he's getting. Like, he's being efficient when he runs the ball. So if I see Houston on the schedule, Seattle, I'm feeling like I got an RB2 who I could play in my flex.
I love, Lawrence, that you said if you take away Melvin Gordon's fumbles.
Got to take away the fumbles.
If you took away my face and my entire body and replaced it with Ryan Gosling's face and body, I'd look better.
Right. If you took away my male pattern baldness, right? I'd be on.
You'd be Connor Rogers.
I'd be Connor Rogers, exactly. I'd be like, yeah, exactly. I would rule the world is what I would do. But the other thing here that I think is important about Pacheco is Houston, Seattle, Denver. The expectation here is, I don't think you're not worried about Kansas City in any of those games, especially against Houston or Denver. So you're looking at very positive game script, wanting to get the rookie some more touches, some easy touches, maybe a touchdown or two there because they're going to be up by so much, especially in the second half. Seattle might be able to hang with them for a little bit, but Denver and Houston, not so much.
Yep. All right, let's jump to wide receivers. Start off with a guy who's been revived, and he has an easy schedule of past defenses to come, and that's Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Matthew, how much upside does this Mike White offense provide Wilson against Detroit, Jacksonville, and at Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, quite a lot, obviously. I mean, look, the Lions allow the third most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. We know Jacksonville has struggled defensively. Seattle has struggled defensively. As good as Seattle's season has been, I mean, they are, they're 19th against the pass over the last month, right? And, Jacksonville also is 31st against the pass. Only one team has been worse in the last 4 weeks than the Jaguars. So, Garrett Wilson, who's super talented, right? We know that. We see, even with Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson still had 90 receiving yards in 3 of the last 4. So the expectation here is that with Mike White under center, Garrett Wilson probably a borderline top 20 play over the fantasy playoffs. Like, you could see Garrett Wilson having an Amon-Ra, St. Brown type run for a rookie wide receiver coming on, towards the end. Wilson's had more fantasy success prior to the fantasy playoffs than Amon-Ra did last year. Right. And then, he just went crazy, Amon-Ra.
Yeah, and you could tell coming in after the Week 11 game where everybody on the Jets was pissed and they was talking to Garrett Wilson, he was just like, hey, he didn't even know what to say. He was just like, this got to change. He definitely don't miss the guy on this shirt right now. It's the Mike White show. So, yeah, man, we feeling good about that. Detroit, that could be a shootout. Jacksonville, all game shootouts. We love it.
Bit more of a stable quarterback situation in Philadelphia, Lawrence, for A.J. Brown, who has a very favorable schedule as well. At Chicago, who Mike White just lit up. At Dallas, and then home to New Orleans. How are you feeling about A.J. Brown coming into the fantasy playoffs?
I'm going to feel good about him coming into the fantasy playoffs. Near the end, though, it could get tricky, though. It's a division game. The division could be on the line. You never know how those are going to go. I like Devontae Smith going forward as well, too. And then we'll see whenever Dallas Goedert is supposed to come back. Week 17, the Saints, maybe they'll have Marshawn Lattimore back, Cam Jordan. That part of the schedule I'm not as sure about, but it's not like you're going to start them, obviously, but I like the jump off at Week 15.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous, too. I guess for our purposes, what does that mean? You're still likely starting him, you know what I mean? I can't imagine. But I'll just, look, they're at Chicago, right? Cold weather game, a game they should dominate. We know Philadelphia is going to want to go run heavy, period, and a game that they should dominate the Bears, right? I mean, they might be facing Trevor Siemian, or Nathan Peterman at that. It's trending towards. It feels like Justin Fields gets shut down for the rest of the year. Nothing's been officially announced yet, but that game's in Chicago, so a cold weather game in December against a team they should kill. You feel like that's a run heavy game.
Yeah.
Then they're at Dallas. Right, and so obviously the Cowboys have a very good defense, and they'll focus a lot of attention on A.J. Brown. And then they're home to New Orleans, and we expect Lattimore to be back there, and Lattimore probably shadows him. And so, again, you're still starting A.J. Brown. I don't know that there's anything you can do. Most leagues have had their trade deadline already, so they're you're sort of stuck there. But yes, would I lower expectations for A.J. Brown? Am I a bit nervous as a manager with A.J. Brown on a number of teams in the fantasy playoffs? A little bit, yeah.
Yep, I think the Saints defense is going to finish the season a lot better than it started. They're only 3.5-point dogs at Tampa Bay on Monday night, so they're going to get better, and that's going to be a concerning matchup.
Is that a pro New Orleans line, or is that a Tampa Bay ain't it line?
Anti-T Bowls, anti-T Brady. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that's going to be a very ugly game, as those games tend to be.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.